What's going on, everybody? This is Childish. We're back at it again with episode number 2 of our newest theory crafting series called Destiny 6, A Closer Look. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome to the channel. Basically, we started this series in order to talk about some of the high-end OP mechanics in the game and try to find some 3-star or 4-star counterparts that you guys can use as alternatives in order to improve your progression. Last week, we started out with the double breaker aspect, so we focused on paper cur and then showcased some of the 3 or 4-star alternatives. If you guys did not check out that video, I will leave a link up top in the information circle that you can check out whether you're on your phone or on the PC. Definitely go ahead and check that video out. Now, episode number 2 is going to be focused all around the concept of cooldown acceleration. If you guys are not familiar with cooldown acceleration, or maybe you're new to the game, get excited, because cooldown acceleration is by far one of the most OP concepts in the game that allow you to just damage more, heal more, and just cycle through all your abilities way faster than you thought you'd ever imagine, which allows you to clear content a lot easier, okay? As far as the 2 top dogs in this particular field, I have both of them for you here. We have Scizor Chrono and we have ROC June. Now, ROC June is going to be the #1 chick when it comes to the healer aspect or support aspect, and then when it comes to our attack-based units, or excuse me, defense scaling attackers, let's say, ROC June is going to be the way to go here. Now, let's take a look at this real quick. So, Speedy Time is the first skill on Carlotta. This is the one that everyone knows her about. Accelerates all allies' skill cooldowns by 260% for 13 seconds. Now, this literally takes some of these, 30, 35 second, 40 second skills and brings it down to under half, right? Under like 15 seconds, 12 seconds, 18 seconds. I mean, it's out of this world how quickly you can get these skills back up, okay? And then, of course, with our attack units or our attackers, even though June is a defense scaling attackers, when it comes to the attacker type units, June is going to be the #1 dog in that aspect here. Iron Stance has an ability that allows him to hit the unit for a certain amount of times, and each time he hits, he's going to reduce the cooldown times of a random ally by 6 seconds per hit. Now, originally this is 4 seconds per hit, but it gets improved when you go to the level, when you bring this one up to level 4. But you can imagine for a unit like this that's hitting 5 to 6 times here, being able to reduce those cooldowns by 6 seconds per hit can literally make or break some of your fights that are really close, when you can essentially, if the random, the RNG, goes in your favor, you can take, one other unit and reduce him by 30 seconds, across the board. And that is crazy here. So when it comes to that concept, a lot of people that don't have the units are going to be like, wow, well, that definitely makes the game relatively easier. Combined ROC June's ability that, as you can see right there, can do such an absurd amount of damage, and then combine that with his second skill that reduces the overall cooldown time, as well as improve the cooldown reduction of his first skill, which is his heavy damage skill. You can clearly see why this is just out of this world, so strong that you all you want to do, right, is just do what everybody else is doing and summon until you get them, because they're that OP. But that being said, I do feel like there's a couple of the units that, definitely shine when it comes to cooldown acceleration. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a look at some of those and then see which ones are probably the better way to go when it comes to your account. The first unit that we're going to take a look at today is going to be Scizor Chrono. Now, Scizor Chrono is by far the budget Carlotta when it comes to that aspect of cooldown acceleration. As you can see right here, his first skill, Speed Tomb, has that same ability, being able to provide that acceleration, the reduction of the cooldowns there by 150% for 10 seconds here. Now, when you compare it to Carlotta starting out level 1, it's a 200% multiplier versus this one being 150%. So either way, even though it's not as much, it's still quite a bit of utility to be able to help you out. Now, he does not have a heal similar to Carlotta, but he does have this damage reduction multiplier here that's going to reduce the damage that you take by 25%. When we increase this all the way up, we're going to have 190% improvement for 13 seconds, which is kind of comparable to Carlotta, as her highest one is going to be for 13 seconds as well. And then the damage reduction goes up from that 25% to 35%, bringing down the cooldown as well, the original cooldown of the skill, to 45 seconds, which is similar to Carlotta as well. Now, obviously, even though it doesn't have that heal, having that damage mitigator is really nice. So you might have to bring some other kind of composition that has like a healer plus that damage healer. But again, because of the fact that he has that cooldown acceleration, it makes things super good. And the cool thing about it is that even though you still have to reach out and kind of split up the rest of your composition with the healer and the DPS, you still have ways of micromanaging the amount of damage you take, and that's going to come from this second skill here, Quiet Tomb. Now, Quiet Tomb is probably one of the most unique skills in the game. He is the only monster that I can recall that has this particular skill. It essentially will have the opportunity to, like it says right here, 45% chance to increase the target skill's cooldowns by 4 seconds and pause time for 4 seconds. Now, this can improve to 6 seconds here with a 55% chance, and then in the striker ability, this is going to be a higher chance with a longer duration here. So with respect to this particular skill, you literally have the opportunity to pause time, not allowing to do anything for 6 seconds, and while that time is paused, they cannot use, or the cooldown reduction on their skills will not move. So literally, they're going to sit there for 12 seconds of wasted time because of the fact that in those initial 6 seconds, there's no improvement on their cooldowns. So this is really, really unique. Again, if you haven't seen in the meta when it comes to PvP aspect, this is definitely one of the units that a lot of people like to use. The cooldown acceleration is super strong depending on which units you have to combine it with. And so combine that action, combine that concept with this time pause mechanic, it's very, very strong, and I really, really am a big fan of this particular unit. Even though its striker ability is sitting at 7,000 strike points, which is a little bit on the higher end, it's going to provide you a little bit more reliability at a 75% chance. And then again, if you have the status activation that you need by means of the substats there, you can improve this chance of landing, and so that you can have this skill to be a little bit more reliable. Just when you thought that the first, second skill and the striker ability was too much, he still provides, what I love about units here is that the cooldown reduction of all ally heroes. There's a lot of units out there with really unique leader skills, but a lot of them are based on a particular faction or a particular element, rock, paper, scissors, right? So to have this cooldown, which again is one of the most OP concepts in the game, and give it to everybody in your party, makes this guy a pretty unique candidate for your composition. And there's really nothing else to say, just simply for the fact that he's just that strong. So really one, I kind of put him up there on the upper echelon of cooldown acceleration monsters here. The next one up is going to be Paper Chrono, his brother here. Now he also has that second skill, Speed Tomb, that provides the cooldown acceleration as well as the damage reduction here. Okay, so that's pretty much the same thing. But the unique thing about him is that he's going to provide a reflective status shield as well as a debuff removal. And this is, again, this is one of those things that is really unique about it. You see a lot of talk about certain buffs or certain invulnerability shields or whatnot, or even some damage reflection shields, but he's one of the few unique monsters out there that actually has a reflective status shield. So not only is he going to prevent the harmful effects that are coming on you, but he's going to provide an opportunity for them to come back to your opponent and take that initial damage here. So depending on where you're at in PvP, if you find that the meta is getting strong when it comes to harmful effects and people coming at you with that, then this would be a really nice candidate to go ahead and throw in your team. If you can see right here, as we improve it, it will stay up there for 10 seconds, and even the status activation gets improved there by 20% upon reflection here. And then of course, if that wasn't enough, you have a small chance there to remove some debuffs here. Of course, again, it is relatively low, but if you're looking at some status activation alongside with cooldown reduction for your substats or your crest or whatnot, this can all get improved, and it's going to work out really nice. Take note that this is a buff, right? This concept of the status reflective shield is a buff here. So with respect to some of the other units that are in the meta, they can remove buffs or they can remove shields. Those are going to be coming into play here, so they can take advantage of it. But again, that being said, it is a really unique mechanic here, and we gotta hand it to this unit, because I think the status shield, I think there's so many other concepts to the game that are so strong that I feel like the status reflective shield gets kind of left alone. And maybe that's just kind of my opinion, because from what I've seen in some of the higher end content, there's not too many mechanics in like the Giants runs or whatnot, where they're doing a lot of harmful effects on you outside of the burns or the freezes on different Giants. But it's all controllable, because you can manage your way through. But if there ever is a change in the PvP meta where there's just so much emphasis on trying to land those harmful effects on the units, I feel like this one's going to get some love here. But from taking a look at the first two right now, obviously I'm liking Scizor Chrono all day. But here's the thing of it. He has the cooldown reduction, but it's not for all ally heroes. Like I said before, it's some of these are based on the elements or the faction. So this is going to go on side with the paper heroes, okay? Again, he has that same mechanic there that's going to provide the cooldown acceleration here on the striker ability. So 7,000 strike points. Again, not the craziest thing in the world, but it is a really unique monster. So it's something that you can improve, or so can use in your comp. But if you do have a choice between, again, if I haven't said enough already, Paper Chrono or Scizor Chrono, I do like Scizor Chrono over, just for that simple fact of that universal leader skill that you can provide a little cooldown reduction for your team overall. I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, oh my goodness, I've gotten like 5 of these units and I've just kind of thrown them away because he just looks like, he just doesn't look too good. But after we're done talking about it, you might want to change your mind with regards to what this guy can do for your composition, right? So let's take a look at it, what he got going on here. Skill number 1, he got the cooldown reduction that we were talking about. Decrease the cooldown times of all allies by 4 seconds, excluding him, of course. That would be too OP if he could do it. And then, of course, we have a 15% increase on the critical rate for 15 seconds here. So when we take a look at how we can improve that, when we get it to level 8, that'll bring it from 4 seconds to 8 seconds. And then from 15% critical rate to 22% critical rate here. Now, of course, that's one mechanic. Let's take a look at the second skill of what it's bringing, right? The second skill here is really, really unique. A lot of different concepts in this particular skill. You got the obviously the attack scaling damage, and then of course you're going to be providing some buff removal as well as a bleeding mechanic here. And this is unique because when we think about bleeding and burning and the poison and whatnot, we're always thinking about status activation, but this is not based on status activation. This is based on critical rate. So what this means is if you're looking for a unit that you want to provide a little bit of a cooldown reduction, as well as provide a little bit of a critical rate bonus for your composition, then you can take advantage of other unique units that have different harmful effect mechanics that are based upon critical rate in your composition in order to accomplish your goal. Again, we have seen so much in the meta about status activation and using this bleeder and that bleeder and this unit for whatever. The funny thing about it is people can still get the same job done with a unit that can provide, that units provide those harmful effects with the critical rate bonus if you can go ahead and, using something like this. Now, why is there an emphasis on the status activation versus critical rate? In my humble opinion, I think it is easier to get to a higher amount of status activation versus the critical rate. You have a couple of different status activators, whereas the critical rate, we're getting a 22% a bonus here, and I think everybody starts out with 5%. So if you get a couple of concentration sets on, you can get a little bit of critical rate improvement. You can get obviously some substats by means of your orbs, your crests, your titles. So I feel like the reliability of status activation when you can get the subsets that you need alongside the crest, it's going to be a little bit easier to obtain. But that being said, if you take a look at your monster box, right, you may notice that you have some really OP monsters that are basically relying upon that aspect of the critical rate, right? If you guys have seen my account, I have ROC Luna, who by far is probably one of the most stronger natural 4-star damage dealers out there that provides not only that heavy damage, but also that crowd control by means of the blind and his hunts. But again, it's based on critical rate. So he's a really unique monster. Honestly, if I were to, build some comp and just say, hey, let's see if I can, create a composition that will allow me to clear Giant to be 8, with a non-status activation team, like this would be the unit that ought to be considered building, okay? Leader skill is going to improve the critical rate of Scizor heroes by 7%. So if you're running them at the lead, or if you're running them at the striker ability, you're going to get the 7% bonus for Scizor heroes, as well as if you're having a striker ability, you have yourself the critical rate bonus for 30%, and reducing decreases the cooldowns of 2 random allies by 12 seconds. So a little bit of improvement there. But me personally, if you were creating a composition that revolves around this particular critical rate buff, I think he needs to be in the party. And then of course, if you have the units that are in the Scizor category, running him at the leader skill so they can take advantage of that critical rate to land those harmful effects, I think that's going to be super good. Next monster that we got for you today is going to be the first one that we're looking at in the Tragar faction. We got Miss ROC Sophia. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Team Unfair Bear. If you guys are not familiar with him, he was a Summoners War player that came on board as a YouTuber to make some D6 content, and he was the one that actually built this one on his free-to-play no Nat5 account that he's making on the side to go ahead and test her out in order to improve the cooldown reduction of his party here. So big shout out to him. This particular unit is really, really interesting. We're going to take a look at skills and let me know what you guys think here, okay? So first skill, Heaven's Ray, is an AoE attack. AoE attack that's going to be providing a little bit more damage when you have some more debuffs here. Now, when we're looking at this defense mechanic, we can improve it to from 35 to 45 seconds, sorry, 45%, and then the duration to 15 seconds. But of course, one thing that I noticed here was the percentage of the chance that in order to improve it is relatively low, and it doesn't improve, which is kind of weird because most units, even with low cooldowns or low percentage chance, they improve just a little bit. That being said, as I stated before in previous videos, units that have a relatively low chance to land initially have it's a multi-hitting effect, so it's going to have multiple times, this one being 5 hits in order to try that, try to land that out here. So of course, combine it with, like I said before, status activation, and you can get it in so many different ways. You can improve for reliability on this skill here. Now, the second skill is the one that you guys would definitely want to take a look at here. We got the AoE damage once again that's going to be providing in a cone. And again, similar to the skill number 1 here, this provides a little bit more DPS when there is more debuffs on your party here. So if you provide, a composition that has a good amount of debuffs that you can land, then you're going to get a little bit more damage out of it. That being said, I think people, even though they can take advantage of that, I feel like people are going to be using her for this this particular instance right here. Decreases a random ally's cooldown with 2 seconds by each hit. So this kind of gives you that budget Rock June feel when you hit a unit, and you'd be able to take it. Now the sad thing of it is that this is a random AoE attack, and we'll go ahead and showcase it for you right now. It's not something that we're using like Rock June, where we're using to target it, and we can obviously get that reduction there once we hit it, right? This is a really, really good AoE range, but again, you have to hit the monster in order to have that cooldown reduction, right? So that's the unfortunate thing about it. You need to be in a position where you're going to have a lot of monsters, coming at you, and then you can, essentially hit them out here. But when you think about some of the content in the later stages of the game, especially just moving through the scenario stages, you're going to have more often than not situations where you get a lot of monsters alongside with like a mini boss pop up, or you're pushing through, you're killing a few units, and then all of a sudden you see all these units come at you out of nowhere, and they're ready to hit you. So having a unit like this where you have a really, really wide range, you can take advantage of it. Again, you can see there's quite a bit of hits. It's, even though it's a random AoE, there's the potential to land a lot of hits here is really, really good here. So again, you can do a lot of damage with this skill with the debuffs here, but more importantly, that aspect of cooldown reduction or cooldown acceleration there is pretty unique here. Now, we'll go ahead and take a look at the improvements as it scales out from level 1 to level 5. See how much it improves when it comes to the seconds. I feel like it's like 1 to 2 second improvement, but we'll take a look at it here. Level 1 to level 5. Yeah, it's a little bit of improvement there. It goes up from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. It doesn't seem like that's a lot, but again, the potential of that range of that attack is, I think it's definitely a nice skill. And keep in mind, we didn't even mention it. This is a stacking skill ability, so you're going to have 2 stacks available for this skill, so that you can cast them quickly and be able to improve the overall cooldowns of your party here. She's bringing a really, really nice leader skill. This is something that you will see quite a bit when it comes to different compositions, especially for conquest and whatnot here. You're going to see a lot of, conquest ones that's going to provide either, debuff duration or cooldown acceleration. I mean, all these different aspects of the game. It's really, really cool. And for this one here, having that debuff duration, especially for the fact that we're creating conquest, comps and giants comps that have everything revolved around those harmful effects, the bleeds, the burns, the poisons. It's really, really nice to have that improvement here. So I'm really a big fan of her. And the striker ability here, if you do run her in the striker here, it's going to be nice, a pretty decent strike point. And again, we're going to have quite a bit of improvement here. Or sorry, not really improvement here, but this is going to go from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. But this one's going to be one specific strike. Whereas, the second skill, you're going to have the stacking ability, so you're going to get a little bit more value out of it if you have it maxed out here. Something to take note. But either way, with respect to everything that she brings, I do really find her as a unique candidate that provides that hybrid aspect of cooldown acceleration as well as some decent DPS. Next one up, we got Rocka DS, which is probably going to be one of the most unorthodox units that we're going to take a look at, but possibly could work in some composition depending on what you're trying to do here. So let's take a look at it, and then you feel free to judge after it's all done, right? First skill, Icicle Arrow, is going to be providing a damage in a line based on the attack power. Has a 40% chance to stun for 3 seconds, and then if you critically hit, you can go ahead and provide a little bit of a heal based on 150% of your caster's attack here. So it's going to be an attack type unit, but you got like a little bit of a heal mechanic. But again, the critical rate needs to be there, right? And you guys know how hard it is to get that critical rate. So interesting concept. When it's improved all the way, we have a 55% chance with a little bit more HP recovery here. Obviously a little bit more DPS, but this is interesting to say the least. Now, if I didn't see it, if you guys didn't see here from the improvement from level 2 to level 3, this is going to turn in from a 2-point, from a 1-point to 2-point breakpoint. And take note that this is a stackable skill. Okay, this is a stackable skill, meaning she's going to have 2 stacks on this particular one to allow you to basically do 4 breakpoints here. So even though this whole mechanic of the skill is like really interesting, 4 breakpoints, right? Stun mechanic, a little bit of a heal, quite a bit of variety when it comes to that one skill. Okay, that's just one skill. How much thing can you do in one skill, right? It's crazy. Okay, next one up here, Hail Shot. Now this is a single target attack that's going to be doing damage based on the caster's critical rate here. So you can kind of tell from the first skill to the second skill, there's going to be a lot of emphasis here on going with some concentration orbs and making sure that you can get as much critical rate on the side as you possibly can if you want to take advantage of this particular damage here. Okay, again, looking back to this first skill, obviously if you want to try to make some kind of a healer out of her, then making sure you have the critical rate is going to be a little bit important. All right, so this one here, this one's a little bit different. It has damage based on the critical rate, but then it goes back to status activation here, being able to chill the target for 6 seconds and decrease the movement speed and attack speed. If you, like I said, just straight up, it's not based on critical rate or whatever like that. And then of course, if you land a critical hit with this skill, you can decrease the caster's cooldown by 5 seconds upon critical hit. Now, the cool thing about this is that once again, it is a stacker-based skill. So let's take a look at it maxed out here. We're looking at still a 22% chance to chill, with the movement speed improving from 40% to 70%, as well as the attack speed. And then this will go down from 5 seconds to 8 seconds upon critical hit. Okay, so that is pretty unique. But let's take a look at the skill, because this is what's going to blow you away. I don't think there's a lot of 4 stars in the game out here that has a stackable skill that actually has 3 counters. So if you guys are familiar, this kind of reminds you of the Paper Core that has the 3 stacks on its breaking ability. So let's take a look at this hit. So 1-2, 1-2. So it's a 2-hit. It's a multi-hitting effect here. 2 chances to go ahead and reduce the cooldown time by 5 seconds. But again, it improves to 8 seconds. So when you think about being able to reduce the cooldown times, and she has a stackable skill, that's going to allow you to cycle through those skills quite a bit, provide those stuns, provide those breakpoints, so that you can move through some of the harder content. Now, when I think about the unit, the range of the attacks, the utility that it provides, I feel like this is going to be a great candidate for boss type stages. Maybe like, giant stages, or maybe like, obviously not conquest stages, because you got the, you're looking at bleeders and stuff like that, but like maybe descendant dungeons and stuff like that. Any kind of, or the end of the scenario stages where you have those bosses that are really, really hard and you can't like crowd control them a little bit. I feel like this is going to be really, really unique. And I honestly, I would not mind building it here. But again, that's not even the crazy thing about this unit. We're going to take a look at a striker ability. I think you guys are going to be blown away at the potential of what this unit can provide. So even if you can't fit this in your composition, you may find yourself in a situation where you can essentially provide this unit in your striker ability and provide you some like crazy crowd control by means of this icicle arrow here. So take note that the icicle arrow goes from that skill 1 from 40% all the way to 70% chance to stun for 3 seconds here. And even though that is sounding kind of crazy all day, because you know what you can do when it comes to status activation, getting this to 100% is easy. But take a look at this right here. This is one of the lowest strike points you will ever see in the game, so you are going to constantly get a ton of stuns here. So this is going to be a really, really nice unit when it comes to PvP. And obviously, again, if you want to get a little bit of value out of that heal, having the high critical rate, you'll be able to get a little bit of that when you land a critical hit. This time around, I want to give a shout out to Metacomb. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he provided a video, I think it was like a week and a half ago, talking about different PvP strikers in the game, and this is one of the ones he showcased here. So, when I first saw that video, I was pretty, excited to kind of take a look at just the strike ability in and of itself, but just the mechanic of her first and second skill was really caught my eye, recently as we were talking about units that provide some kind of cooldown acceleration. Now, I know that this is not going to be similar to Rock, June, or Carlotta because this cooldown reduction doesn't apply to the party. It just applies to her. But I wanted to bring her up just for the fact that, it's a multi-hitting effect. It's 3 stacking skills. So, I mean, you literally can reduce your skills so quickly to the point where you're just going back and forth with this crowd control. And depending on how you maneuver in the field, you can essentially line this up to go ahead and stun some units and get quite a lot of value from that heal if you lined it up correctly and you have that high critical rate in order to take advantage of that healing ability. So really, really unique monster overall. I'm really excited for any of you guys that may have them that really want to test them out. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, oh my goodness, Childish, I don't have any of those monsters. I'm never going to be able to have anything when it comes to cooldown acceleration. Why are you wasting your time making this video? Well, believe it or not, guys, apparently Netmarble actually took the time to incorporate some cooldown acceleration in a 2-star unit by the name of Ren here. He's from the Jin faction here. We're going to take a look at his stats, because again, 2-star monsters don't get a lot of love when it comes to effective stats here, effective HP and whatnot. So obviously these are quite a bit lower here, but again, he's 2-star. We got to showcase him because you can literally build this unit like now and max skill him out so you can take advantage of it if you really feel the need to add some kind of cooldown reduction to your team here. So Dance of the Undead is what we're taking a look at here, reducing all cooldowns except with regards to the caster by 5 seconds. Again, this is going to improve from 30 seconds down to 28 seconds and then go basically double the amount of cooldown reduction from 5 to 10 seconds here. So that's really not too bad considering that you can literally just farm overnight, get a ton of normal summoning scrolls, and then pop these 1 to 2, this 2-star monster really, really easy, right? Second skill is a single target skill. And mind you, I didn't even, oh yeah. So second tail is a single target skill, providing a chance of decreasing the target's defense, as well as a little bit of buff removal. If you take a look, if you go ahead and improve it to the max level here, we're going to have a little higher chance of decreasing the defense, and we're still going to have that buff removal ×1. Now, if it was able to, if it was literally able to do, remove 2 buffs there, I think I'd be a little bit too strong here. But just to take a look at the skill, obviously it's a stacking ability skill, so you're going to have a couple of extra chimes to go ahead and land that defense break here. So would I go out of my way to build it? Probably not, because I think that there's still some really good 3 to 4-star counterparts that you could take advantage of. The effective HP is going to be a little bit lower just because of the base overall stats of a 2-star versus a 4-star unit. But overall, I mean, it's really cool to kind of look at it. He's not going to have a leader skill, unfortunately, but his striking ability does provide a little bit of cooldown reduction here, and it is a relatively decent strike point here. But again, I think when it comes to what some of the other units offer in the striking ability, I feel like this is just not enough, right? When we think about some of the other units that provide units, cooldown acceleration for all allies by a certain percentage for a certain amount of seconds versus just 10 seconds, unless you really want it initially. Like, I feel like there's going to be a couple other choices in that aspect here. That's pretty much it when it comes to the cooldown acceleration. I did want to give some love to Rock June's brother here, Mr. Paper June. If I can find him in one of these categories here. Is he Rock? Oh, no, is he Medina? He's Jin, right? He's Jin. So Paper June, he's just kind of an interesting monster to talk about. With all this cooldown reduction here, we're like, man, I wonder if there's anybody that's just as OP on the other side, being able to provide cooldown acceleration for the enemy here. And so he is actually the one that can do that here. Paper June is the first June that I actually pulled. I pulled him versus Rock June, before Rock June here. And initially, I did what everybody else did. I went, hey, you know what, like, I'm pretty down and out because he's not Rock June. And I agree with you. You should be mad because Rock June is just OP. There's just really nothing to say about it. But this is one of those units that I really am a big fan of, simply for the fact that he has this ability here that, even though, I told you in a previous video, even though it states that it's an amplification skill, this is actually a stackable skill. So you have the opportunity to land two chances, 2 breakpoints for a total of 4 breakpoints for this skill. And this by far has the highest single target or highest amount of activation for a breaking ability just coming out of the gate here. 65% chance is super crazy. And as you can see, even when you max out, they're not even going to improve it on that aspect because of how strong it is. And I'm okay with that. It is a stackable ability for 65% chance, okay? But again, that's not what we're really focusing on. I'm just kind of being biased because I have the unit right now. I just want to give you guys a little spotlight. But the maxed out ability here, 60% chance to increase the random target skill cooldowns by 50 seconds. I mean, that is ungodly, right? That's just crazy. And so when you think about the compositions that people are bringing, and being able to, you know, bring him in your comp and get that first turn, because again, this is AI versus you know, you have the opportunity to set somebody back. Is it going to be the unit that you want to have set? It might not, it may be, but the fact of the matter is when you reduce that skill ability from 50%, you know, from whatever it is to 50 seconds, that's just crazy. I mean, that just literally sets that unit back for the rest of the match, unless he has some other kind of cooldown acceleration mechanic, you know, incorporated in his skills, or like if he has like a Carlotta on his comp, right? So really, really unique here. And then for the second one here, Energy Wave, a damage absorption shield that does damage based on defense. Again, this is also a defense scaling monster. That's going to provide a little bit of an absorption here to give you like a small heal. It's going to provide a little heal for the team HP, and then provides essentially mitigating damage for 4 to 6 seconds. So this is not a invulnerability shield, right? So you won't be able to stop the harmful effects that are going to come into play here, but you still can mitigate that damage for 6 seconds. So I'm a big fan of this in the PvP world. I'm a big fan anywhere you think about in PvE, especially when you see a big boss getting ready to attack. It's really, really nice. Or when you're doing like Carol's Trial, those interesting situations when you're in between cooldowns and you need that little bit of a absorption time, that little bit of downtime, wiggle room, so to speak, so that you don't take any damage until one of your other skills comes up here. Really, really nice, you know, really unique ability here. He provides a little bit of a defense bonus for all the Jin faction heroes, and then of course the striking ability a little bit on the higher end, but does quite a bit of damage. And this is, again, if you need that preventative measure and maybe the rest of your team in Carol's Trial is sitting really good, he can provide that 6-second absorption for you if you don't have like a Scizor Eve or a Paper Abdonis or whatnot. So really unique monster overall. So that is pretty much it, guys, when it comes to our showcase here, episode number 2, for a closer look into the Cooldown Acceleration. Again, if this is your first time tuning in and you like this type of educational content or this theory crafting content, I need you to do me a favor. Show your support by hitting that like button, sharing with this to other, you know, friends, family members, whoever likes this particular game. Show them this video. Let them know what it is so that we can get some constants out there. And if I haven't said it already, when it comes to, you know, the aspect of cooldown acceleration, maybe you don't have any of these units out there, and you're like, oh my gosh, like what's the point about this? Like, why? How can I get, you know, how can I take a benefit out of this? Like, forget about the concept of cooldown acceleration for a second, okay? And understand that cooldown acceleration is something that can be obtained by a multitude of things. You can get it from the aura substats, you can get it from the crest, you can get it from the titles, okay? A lot of different mechanics into the game that allows you to improve your cooldown acceleration for that particular unit, despite the fact of looking at any unit and whatever, you know, utility that they provide in their skill set, right? So keep that in mind. Keep a close eye out on the subsets of all your particular orbs. You know, for some of those 3 to 4 star orbs that you're looking at, but maybe they don't have, you know, the perfect, you know, innate stat that you're looking for, roll it out to +3, +6, or even +9. See if you get that cooldown reduction, because if you get 2% to 3% cooldown reduction on 4 different orbs and then 4 different crests, that is a lot of cooldown reduction for that unit. Combine that with a unit like Carlotta that can improve the overall cooldown acceleration, whatever. I mean, that is really strong, and you can see why some of the people have no trouble getting through the content in this game, okay? Now, we are officially done. Again, if you enjoy this content, please feel free to like that video, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care.